Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Sunday Special here on the Race Crazy YouTube channel. Today, we are taking a look and also, appreciating a legend of this sport with the top 10 Kevin Harvick race wins in terms of, not in terms of race detail, but in terms of like how memorable the race was. So top 10 Kevin Harvick wins in terms of race memory-wise, or how memorable the race was. He announced earlier this week that this is going to be his final season. So for those of you Harvick fans, get out to the track, appreciate that last season that he's going to have, and really go out and I guess enjoy it. So but today we're going to start. I've got 3 cars that are considered honorable mentions, and I'll explain why I put them in an honorable mention charge, because in my opinion, I cannot be objective with them. The first of which, these are going to be the ones I've seen in person. 2020 Bristol Night race. This was the duel with him and Kyle Busch for like 100 laps. Those two run 1-2 all over each other. It was a fantastic race all the way around. They literally stayed neck and neck all the way to the very end of the race. It was his 8th win of 2020 when he got this win, and it was just a very memorable race for me, obviously being way up in the stands. I was way up in turns 3, was where I was located at. And so if you go look at the Diecast review of this car, you'll see some of my footage from that race, but I can't be objective about any of the races I've been to, so I figure I'm going to show those 3 first. So yes, first one is the 2020 Bristol Dirt Race. The second one on that list is going to be the 2018 Kansas Night Race, which takes place in the spring. This was actually a really good race. I mean, I know a lot of people may not remember this race, but it was a very good race. He had to chase down Truex and passed him coming to the white flag on fresh tires. So there was a lot of strategy that took place towards the end of that race, and it made for a really, really interesting and fun race overall. He did dominate the race, but then that little late caution kind of put him back in the field and gave somebody else a shot, and he was still able to come back and get the win. So I remember this one pretty vividly. I was sitting down in turn 1 for this one, and as I said, I think the race was really, really good, but I don't know how many people find it very memorable because it was just kind of one of them Saturday night Kansas races that don't get a ton of attention. And the last one on this list is going to be a car from 2016. This is his Outback Steakhouse Kansas win. You'll see I've got it signed in Kansas when he won the pole for the 2018 race, actually. So when he won that other race, I got this one signed the Friday before that race down in the infield. So, but yeah, this is the playoff race from 2016. It was the 3rd Cup race I had ever been to. And Chase Elliott, for a while there, was running up front, and I believe he had a mistake or a tire issue and went a lap down. And that eliminated him. I just remember saying, wow, for a rookie, I saw how well he was running. I was a little surprised. I know Casey Kane finished 4th in this race. It was kind of the last competitive race I got to see Casey Kane in person. So, but yeah, overall, a really cool car. I mean, it's got some, this part of the fender kind of tore up. The autograph looks amazing, playoff banners and stuff. So this one, obviously one of the cars I got to see win in person. Not a beautiful car compared to the Sun Energy 24 that I liked, but still, like I said, I don't remember how memorable that is for everybody either, because it was kind of a classic Kansas race, long green run to the end. So yeah, those 3 I can't be objective about, but now we're on to the objective ones. And the first of which is going to be the 2014 Southern 500. So this one is maybe not super memorable for everybody. The Southern 500 is always a memorable race, but he went out and was able to get the win in this car. It was his 2nd win as driver of the number 4 car. He won at Phoenix, and then he ran really well the entire season, just wasn't able to stack the wins. And so, I will say I love the race detail on this one. The Darlington has always been a very cool one. I actually relatively recently picked up the Pin Southern 500 from 2014 as well. But yeah, it's a really good race version. I don't remember this race quite as well because I think I was busy on that day. But I do know this is a fairly popular race in terms of a lot of people remember the Southern 500 because it is the Southern 500. Now, I could have maybe done for recency bias the 2020 Southern 500 where Chase and Truex took each other out, but I decided it was going to be this one because I think this one is a little bit more popular for that reason. Coming in at the number 9 spot is going to be the Brickyard 400 win from 2020. Now, this one, there were no fans in attendance, so it was a little less lackey. It took place on a Sunday afternoon on July 4th weekend, which, again, kind of a weird time and place to run this race. I will say they had a really cool pin that goes great with the car. You can see there, Big Machine Vodka 400, so kind of neat. So yeah, the paint scheme was really cool. He just dominated the race. It wasn't really, I wouldn't call it a great race, but he dominated it and won his third Brickyard 400, second in a row as well, becoming the second driver to do that, or third driver, besides Jimmy Johnson and Kyle Busch, to win back-to-back Brickyard 400s. So, yeah, fairly memorable for more of the Brickyard standpoint than the actual race or race detail on the car, but still a pretty good car nonetheless, and that's what brings it in at number 9. So coming in at the number 8 spot is going to be a car that goes back to his Richard Childress days. This is going to be the 29 car from the 2007 All-Star race. Now this race, you might remember, maybe not as much for Kevin Harvick winning, but the Kyle Busch and Kurt Busch tango. So those two tangled with each other down in turn number 1. Kyle Busch didn't have enough room. Kurt Busch kind of squeezed him, and they both ended up taking each other out of the All-Star race while going for the lead, I believe. And so, yes, this 29 car ended up winning that race because of all that took place. But I mean, obviously, I remember that wreck specifically. The tangle between the two Busch brothers was a very big deal, and so this one is more memorable for other reasons, but still a very memorable race nonetheless. But that's what brings this one in at the number 8 spot. Now, coming in at the number 7 spot, I gotta slide this over. Coming in at the number 7 spot is going to be actually a race from the 2020 season. This car is going to be the 2020 Darlington Spring Race. Now, this one is super memorable because I'm sure a lot of us remember COVID was a thing, and it was not a fun thing. We had no racing for months. We had no anything for months, and NASCAR was the first sport to come back, and Kevin Harvick won that first race back. He won that race. Empty stands, got out, said how weird it felt to get out of a race-winning car and have no fans in the stands. Said it really didn't feel right, but this race is mostly memorable due to circumstances. It wasn't like a super crazy finish or a crazy amount of different things happening in that race. But at the end of the day, this race win is specifically due to the circumstances that were around that race because of COVID and, first live sport back, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, this one comes in at that spot. And again, it's mostly for that. Still a pretty good race win. It's got the your face here and some of those kind of cool features. There you can see the real heroes there on the side. So they got a couple features that are specific to that race. But yeah, that's why I bring that one in at number 7. Now, coming in at the number 6 spot is going to be a race from the Coca-Cola 600. This one still pains me to this day. This is Kevin Harvick's 2013 Coke 600 win. Ran well that day, but I personally didn't think this was the car I wanted to win, especially after how well Kasey Kahne had run all day long. And late caution comes out. Kevin Harvick puts 4 tires on. Kasey Kahne puts 2. Kasey Kahne actually holds the lead and only gets passed with like 6 or 7 to go, and then ends up finishing second on the old tires. Nobody else could get around him, so had a really good car. Really, it burns me to this day because of how good the 5 car was that day. But yeah, I got a second Coke 600 win. Obviously, it's a crown jewel. It's Memorial Day weekend, so this one's going to get bumped up the charts a little bit to the number 6 spot. Okay, gotta slide this out of the way. Coming in at the number 5 spot is going to be the 2019 Brickyard 400. I actually do have the pin for this one as well. There you see it. 2019 Brickyard 400. And this one is only really significant to me because of how much I remember Denny Hamlin having a flat tire going into turn 3 that absolutely destroyed his car and gave Kevin Harvick the lead back. So he was leading with under 10 laps to go, and Denny Hamlin's tire lets go, and he nails the wall, and it catches fire, and Kevin Harvick ends up going through for the win. Wasn't a super crazy race or anything. It's kind of like the 2017 race where it ends with kind of a little bit of chaos, very memorable crash kind of thing, leader getting wiped out with 10 to go by a tire, that kind of stuff. But either way, I remember it pretty well, and that's why I put this one at number 5. Race detail or anything like that, not super crazy, but it is the Brickyard 400, so that's a big race, whether we like to mention it or not. All right, so coming in at the number 4 spot is going to be the Kevin Harvick Phoenix win from 2014 Phoenix win. Yes, this is the fall win. This was a race he had to win to get into the championship for. This race, he went out, dominated it, and won the race. Meanwhile, you have the Jeff Gordon elimination due to the Ryan Newman aggressive slide job where he goes in and drills him straight in the side. And so yeah, basically between those elements, like I said, this one not even as much for Harvick. This is super memorable from Newman nailing Larson into the wall and eliminating Jeff Gordon. So some of these races are really memorable for other reasons than Harvick winning, but he did win this race. We got a really good looking signature on here too. I can't even express how nice that looks. So very cool car nonetheless. He also did shred the tire off. I mean, we didn't even mention the fact that it's a throwback Budweiser paint scheme. You know, that's just kind of an extra detail added on top, let alone deciding the fact that we've got, you know, all the other circumstances that went around this race. So it brings this one in at the number 4 spot. The race, as far as Kevin Harvick, was probably a little less, very significant to Harvick's career and everything, but as far as the actual race where Harvick wins, that's not the biggest part people remember, but it's definitely a huge element. All right, so coming in at the number 3 spot, probably going to be a little bit controversial to the Harvick fans, but I actually put his Homestead Championship win in 2014. Now, this is the most expensive Kevin Harvick car, besides maybe the Elvis Reese's car that I think exists. The Elite Homestead car is a really hard car to find, really expensive if you do end up finding one. But I put this one at number 3 because the 2014 Homestead race wasn't as memorable as the other two. I'm sure at this point you've probably narrowed down exactly which two those are, because they're obviously kind of ingrained in our minds as NASCAR fans, but it was a great race nonetheless. It came down to a pit stop at the end. The racing was okay at best, but definitely don't have quite as much of the memory from this race as the other two. So I know it might be a little controversial because it is probably the biggest or second biggest win of Kevin Harvick's entire career, but definitely, you know, definitely a really great must-have for Harvick fans, but I think these other two, you'll understand why I consider them more memorable. All right, so the next car on this list, number 2, is going to be the 2011 Coke 600 win. Now again, this car is not even famous for Kevin Harvick. I remember this race more for Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Kasey Kahne, by the way, running out of gas on the final restart. Kasey Kahne had a great run in the 4 Red Bull car. Dale Jr. literally ran out of gas coming through turns 4, and Kevin Harvick slides by for the win. So Kevin Harvick-wise, it's, again, a very memorable race from the standpoint of, wow, he jumped up and kind of stole it, but super memorable because it was such a big deal for Earnhardt Jr.'s win streak or losing streak to continue. Obviously, as a Kahne fan, I remember that restart where Kane's car just wouldn't get going, and that was a pretty big deal. So, you know, that's the kind of stuff that definitely makes me remember this race over the Homestead, because, again, you could ask any Junior fan what moment hurt the most, and a lot of them will look and they'll point to this race and say, this race hurt me because XYZ. You know, they'll point out the fact that he ran out of gas and stuff. So this one I would say is a more memorable race, even though the other one is bigger for Kevin Harvick. Now, the number 1 spot shouldn't be controversial. I'm sure everyone has probably guessed it by now, anyone that knows Kevin Harvick, and this is his Daytona 500, probably arguably the best Daytona 500 finish of all time. I will say there have been some close ones, but I think this was the best overall finish, and I think a lot of people would agree. You can see I do have the Daytona 500 pin, if it'll focus. There we go, 2007, so that's kind of a cool ad that goes with my Daytona 500 collection, but this race, top to bottom, I mean, where do we start? Let's start on the front. We've got confetti. You can see a little scrape on the left side. You can see we got confetti. We got lots of dirt on there all over the front of this car. And then you go over to this side and you can see that scrape on the wall. Kind of got squeezed up there by Kyle Busch on the final lap when he was making that huge run down the backstretch. Again, the fact that the second and third and fourth place cars both spun coming out of the final corner on the final lap, leaving 2 cars in a dead heat heading towards the line. I don't know, there's something about that just seems more exciting than, you know, a whole pack of cars, even though we have had closer finishes 2016, 2022 and 20, I can't remember all of them, but we've had some very close and very iconic finishes in the Daytona 500, but this one I think has to be my most memorable. There was just something about 2 cars going side by side down to the line that had its own look to it that I just remember so vividly. So this car comes home at number 1. The most memorable car or memorable win from Kevin Harvick that I think will stick with a lot of people forever, especially those that have, you know, watched NASCAR at least to the degree I have from 2004 to now. So obviously you noticed I just said 2004 to now. 2003 Brickyard's not in there. Anything prior to 2004 is probably not in there because, you know, I wasn't really watching that much. But you can see I did get kind of 2007. There was a couple other honorable mentions. Sonoma 2017, I remember that race pretty well. I did think that one was pretty cool. Phoenix 2016, really close finish with Edwards. You'll notice a lot of people kind of forget that scheme or that race even happened, just because of the way that there's so many good races that have happened over time. But yeah, this one coming in at number 1. So we'll give you a quick. I'll put the top 5 in here. I don't actually have room for the rest, as odd as that is. So we'll put our top 5 Harvicks in here. Get one last look at them for everybody. But yeah, it'll be a different series without Kevin Harvick. He had a edginess that a lot of guys don't have that come into NASCAR, and we'll see if anyone else is going to have that, because as of right now, the only guy that looks like he's going to be ruffling feathers is probably going to be, I can only go with 4, sorry. I was thinking I could go with 5, but I can't quite get the 5th in there, so we'll go with the 4. The 5th one was the 2019, but that's our top 4 right there as far as Kevin Harvick wins. For you Kevin Harvick fans, enjoy the final season. Be glad you at least have a full season. Like I said, as a Kasey Kahne fan, I found out 2018 mid-season that he was retiring, and he didn't even get to the second Kansas race. He was out by the time Darlington hit. So enjoy it. Soak it up. Enjoy the final season of your favorite driver. Look for a new driver in the Ford camp. Brett Moffitt. Doing a little campaign here. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching. I hope you have enjoyed the Sunday special today. Skull Vikings. This will be posted, so we'll see if they are winning or losing by the time this is up. But thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you in the next Diecast review.